So before we get started, I thought I'd just introduce Loubie. For those of you that do not know her, who's never done a class with Loubie before? For whom is it new and fresh? Okay, cool. The thing with Loubie is last year she got me into eating very differently. So now I eat from my garden a whole lot more than what I did. And what started off as spectrum as a little bit of a hedge is now in my fruit and my food and everything else. Something you don't know about Loubie is that she's really also a really great author. If you're interested in learning more about her books and taking this kind of step further, we will find her at the exclusive book stand. She's got the Grower's Guide and the Cook's Guide. Something else that's really incredible is that she knows the indigenous parts of the Western Cape really well. So today she's going to take you on a journey, and then she's going to do a bit of a deep dive. Is anyone else excited? Loubie, whoop whoop! Fantastic. Without further ado, Loubie Rusch.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to start you off with a little bit of a virtual tour. I've prepared a little bit of a slideshow. So because we can't go off on a field trip together, and because most people haven't a clue. Right, so I'm taking you on a bit of a virtual trip slideshow, as if you went out into the wild to see where you would actually find dune spinach, what it looks like growing. Because it's an ingredient that most people haven't a clue what it is. You can find it to buy through Harvest of Hope. It used to be a little bit more available. It's beginning to become more available again in relationships with small-scale growers. But most people won't have seen it in the wild, so I'm going to show you what it looks like in the wild. Can you have it? No, am I on yet? No, not yet. And then we're going to do a little bit of an exploration with this ingredient, because it's not like a carrot or an onion or a potato where most people already know something about the ingredient. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey about how it behaves, and then make a couple of dishes together. And I haven't given you a recipe card or anything like that in front of you, so I'm going to encourage you to be adventurous. So you've got some ingredients here, and I'll take you through what the possibilities are a little later. And if you do happen to buy my Cook's Guide afterwards, then more detailed ingredients around these sorts of things that we're playing around with this morning are in the book. But let's have a little bit of fun. And Okay, but now what I can do is I can ask them to get the slideshow going so that we can take a little journey looking at what dune spinach looks like in the wild. And just to do a little disclaimer here, foraging is one of the ways in which indigenous foods are beginning to be drawn attention to. And just to let everyone in the room know that foraging in this country, there isn't a permit for plants in the same way that there is a permit for fishing, mollusks, seaweeds and so forth, which you can go and buy at the local post office. With plants, that kind of a permit does not exist. If you are going to get a permit as a researcher, for example, to collect seeds or cuttings and that kind of thing, you would go through Cape Nature. And also community members who are doing some wild harvesting would also get a permit through Cape Nature. But it is not a particularly easy or friendly process to go through. So essentially, picking indigenous wild foods in the wild is illegal. If you've got a buddy who's got some land, or you've got some land of your own and you're growing, then you can actually collect indigenous things there. But on the whole, foraging indigenous foods in the wild is not allowed. And that really is because our indigenous foods are under threat. So there are about 10,000 plants in our Cape Floristic region, of which 25% are threatened. And they're threatened by agriculture and by urbanization. So in a sense, we're having to protect our biodiversity, and I'm working very hard to bring them back into cultivation. So this dune spinach that's in front of you has been grown by small-scale farmers on the Cape Flats. So back to the slideshow now. So what can I go on to say? I've started a project at the Sustainability Institute, who are in Lyndoch near Spear. And we've started a special project there called the Local Wild Food Hub. And it is a project where we're working on a number of different things, one of which is developing a curriculum for farmer trainers so that they can then take what they've learned back to their own organizations and train farmers to cultivate. So that's really a very, very exciting development. We managed to secure some funding from an international philanthropy. And they They've also financed the public publishing of the Cook's Guide, and we're also putting a community of practice together whereby we're bringing researchers, community members, legislative bodies, organizations, cooks, growers, all together to together actually find a way to start reintegrating our indigenous foods back into our food system. So I would actually like, while we're here, and we have a little bit of time before this lot kicks in, who knows, list, between all of you, list what indigenous edible ingredients from the Western Cape you all know. Indigenous mushrooms, yes, okay, fine. Rooibos, yes. Who knows something else? Spekboom, yes, not a Western Cape, but good enough. Ah, there it is. Okay, so now we can revert to here. So essentially, if you were to go into the supermarket, you could find honeybush tea at some places, rooibos tea. You wouldn't be able to buy spekboom, but you might have one in your garden. And certain times of the year, you might find waterblommetjies. Now, in the Greater Cape Floristic region, there are 1,700 edibles. And what did I just list? 3 that you can find in the shop. There's a lot of work to be done to actually reintegrate our edibles back into our supermarkets and our food system. So this is in Komiki, and it gives you a sense of what the plant looks like when it's flowering. You can see that the bowl that you have in front of you is a lot softer because it's been raining, and this is in a later time of the year, so it's much drier. Next slide. So this is growing right on the seafront. Next. Where's my little knoppy? There we go. So this is in Horston, which is towards Hermanus. And this gives you a sense of the kind of carpet that dune spinach can make. And this is the sort of thing that we've seen happening in cultivation. I planted a wild food garden in Khayelitsha, and it made this kind of a carpet. Next slide. And it also quite likes to clamber. You can do the next slide as well. So it likes to grow up support. This is in Muizenberg. So this is along the edge of Baden-Powell Drive. Many of you will have driven that forever. And you have, if you keep going along Baden-Powell towards Strandfontein and those places, those dunes that you go over are covered in dune spinach. So when I planted it in Khayelitsha, it went baniek. I mean, it was just, next slide. And it gives you a sense of the fact that the previous one, which is Sunkool, and this is Veldkool here, you know, these plants, those are also edibles. That gives you a sense that we've got wild foods growing everywhere around us. Next slide. And it also, so this is now in Komiki, and you can see how close to the sea this is. It's literally just pouring down the bank here. Next slide. Another kind of sense of just what a carpet it makes. Next slide. And it also grows in combination with other things, and it'll come inland a little bit as well. Next slide. And it'll grow with other things. So this little plant that's over here, you can see it looks rather parsley-like. It's called sea parsley or dune celery, and it tastes very much like like celery or parsley. So that's another indigenous food that the farmers are beginning to cultivate. And here you can see the kind of flowers that it makes. They smell very much like honey, and they make these little sort of seed capsules that are really quite tough. Next slide. And then there you can see that's up against a wall. So it's the plant is wanting to go uphill, but it hasn't got anything to hold onto. So the maximum height it can get to would be about here. Next slide. But then as soon as there's a little bit of support, like you're getting within here, then it's actually climbing up through here because it's getting some support. So next slide. Here we are at Granger Bay, virtually next to the Oranjezig market, and there's a bit of a fence there. And so here it's actually making a full-on hedge. And one of the things that I'm keen to encourage farmers to do is to actually plant a windbreak. Because we've got real issues with wind here, and it claps vegetables quite badly. So this is one of the uses that we could be putting the plant to, and also actually so that it takes up less ground space, but actually goes vertically instead. Next slide. Here you can see, this is now on the wild coast. So I was very excited as I've gone further north, because I always thought this was a winter rainfall thing and you weren't going to see it in the summer rainfall South Africa. But here on the wild coast, there it was growing on the coast, and that made me so friggin' excited. So it's literally starting in Namibia, and it's actually going right up to KwaZulu-Natal that we're finding it on our coastline. Next slide. Here you can see what it's doing on the coastline there. And so that's interesting because when it's dry here, it's wet there. So you'll get nice juicy leaves in various parts of the country at different times of the year. Next slide. So this is what I planted in Khayelitsha. I planted a wild food garden, and we tried making it go up a bit. Next slide. So, I mean, went absolutely crazy within 2 years. It just made this rich, fat, thick carpet. Next slide. And we tried to make some support for it, but here you can see, if you were going to try this at home, there wasn't enough. We just had a few little wires, and that wasn't actually enough support for the dune spinach to go up. So that was a bit of a failure. It actually needs a bit of a mesh. Next slide. And then when we took the garden out, this is going to give you a sense of what this plant actually, the kind of carpet that it makes when we took the bed out. Next slide. And it also gives you a sense of what the root system looks like. That is one hectic root system. And the reason it has a root system like this is because when it gets dry in the summertime, then those long runners will actually die back completely, and the life force of the plant sits in the roots, so that when the next rains come, it just sends out long runners again. So it's got an incredible resilience to survive in our very, very hot, dry summers. Next slide. So here we've got some beds at the Sustainability Institute, and here the children in the early childhood development classes and the primary school are getting indigenous foods in their feeding scheme, in their lunches and breakfasts. Next slide. And here we were clearing a bed in order to plant some other things. And again, you can see a similar sort of pattern of how that sort of mesh grows. Next slide. Okay, so now we're going to be now we're getting onto the cooking side. So now we're going to start rolling up our sleeves. Next slide, and I'm going to show you the kinds of things. So this is one of the dishes that we're going to try today. We've got an oyster mushroom instead of a brown mushroom, but it's a very similar sort of idea. And you can see the kind of rich green color that it gets when you apply heat to it. And that's one of the things that we're going to explore today. I mean, these are looking very fresh and green now. In the summertime, when they're much drier and the leaves are more thick, then they're a bit more grey, and the leaves are also a bit more thick. Next slide. Here, you can also use it raw, but I would suggest that you use it raw in the wintertime when the leaves are soft like this. And if you want to have a little taste of a raw leaf now, that's the moment to do so, because it gives you a sense of what the sort of flavor of the leaf is raw. Some people don't like it raw. I prefer it cooked as well. Here I've put them into dolmada. I've put them into flatbreads. I've made a soup with it. That was a leek potato and dune spinach soup. Here I've got it with a little bit of that was a kraut. Here I'm just braising it. There it's in a mixed salad. There's a mushroom and dune spinach filling in an omelette. Next slide. So these, if you decide to buy a book, this is what they look like. This is Cape Wild Foods, A Grower's Guide. I wrote that specifically for farmers and home growers. And then that's the, there we go. Look at this. So that's the Cook's Guide, and that's recipe rich. And also I write about the plants in both books. In the Grower's Guide, I write about them from the point of view of somebody who might want to plant them in their garden, how far apart you plant them, how high they grow, all of that kind of information. Whereas the Cook's Guide, I write about each plant from a culinary perspective, what its flavor profile is, how it behaves when you cook with it, and that kind of thing. And then a whole bunch of recipes as well. So now this is going to be an interesting challenge, because now I need my hands. They've gone to get a new cable. Okay, cool. So let's just, yeah? Okay, cool. But I can also just tell you what to do without me necessarily doing it. But I can't remember if there's another slide. Yes, there is. Okay, so essentially this is what we're going to be working through. So basically what we want to do is I want you to go through how this plant behaves when you heat it. If we had enough time, I would suggest that we blanch it in boiling water, but we haven't really got enough time for that. So if you want to actually experiment with that at home, if you've got leftover dune spinach, or if you want to go and buy some from the 2 stands that are selling dune spinach here, then I would suggest that that's something that you could try. And I would particularly recommend that during the summertime when the leaves are kind of thicker and harder, that actually blanching them will help a lot to also to improve their flavor, in fact. But what we will do is we will actually braise them a little bit, and while we're braising them, you will see how they suddenly brighten up. So what you can start doing in the interim is you can actually start slicing your spring onions, and I would recommend them that you slice them on the diagonal. Okay, cool. I would recommend that you slice them on the diagonal, and that you do so at about a 1/2 centimeter thick slices. So and I would go more just with the whites at this stage, and not so much the greens. And then what you can do is I think that your dune spinach has already been pulled off the stem. Here is a piece of no, in fact, I think you might have been given a sprig of dune spinach as well. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to take them take the leaves off the stem because the stems themselves can be quite woody. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, so basically, you're going to be pulling the leaves off the stalks because the stalks can be a little bit woody, and that's not really much fun. And I've had a disaster where somebody made some dune spinach soup, and they didn't pull it off the stalks, and there was a kind of a, how would one call it, a sort of a thready texture that not even sieving would get rid of. So I really do recommend that you take the leaves off the stalks. But most of your boil, that has already been done. And for the purposes of our demo today, we're actually leaving these leaves whole so that you don't have to actually shred them fine. So when you've done that, then you can actually put some of your spring onions into your pan with some oil. Now, I must just explain to you, I don't know if you all know, that is it P1. 1 is low, 9 is ridiculously hot. So you're going to burn your food. So I would go somewhere sort of midway between the two. I would go maybe 4 or 5. You do actually want this to be sort of like a stir-fry kind of a feel. And I would recommend that you stir-fry the spring onions. You know what, I'm just going to walk around because I don't even have to demo this. People can just kind of do it. So what you're going to do is you're going to, yes, here we go. You're going to start stir-frying your spring onions for a bit with some olive oil. And I always like to heat my pan up a bit first so that I'm actually throwing oil into a hot pan. If you've already put your oil in, it really doesn't matter. It's not, you just don't want to let it get smoking hot and become burnt oil. And you can use either olive oil. I think I've got avocado oil on my station. I'm not sure what oil you have. Have I got both? Okay, cool. So if you don't want the olive flavor, then go for the avocado oil. I love the olive flavor, so personally I prefer to use olive oil. And then throw your spring onions in there and let them sizzle a bit. And once you start getting the smell there, then you can add your dune spinach in. And once the dune spinach starts to come to a nice bright color, then I would actually take those leaves and the spring onion off and put it on a bowl on the side. Right, so you're already going in. Oh, okay, cool. Right, am I working yet? No, am I working yet? Is it working yet? Up, there we go. I've got hands, people, I've got hands. Okay, cool. So now this is, and I would even go more, low, bit lower. Yeah, I would go, that's looking amazing.
Must we add more dune spinach?
You can definitely add more dune spinach. And what you can also do is once that has wilted a little bit, then you can add a bit of your chickpeas in, and then you're making like a chickpea and dune spinach and spring onion veggie number. If you want to, you can squeeze garlic into it at home.
If they make you louder, just don't stand in front of that. And they won't
Okay.
hear that.
Okay. All right. Yes. So how's everybody doing here? You're adding your dune spinach. Yes, that's good. So some of you, if you want to add your chickpeas in as you're going along, then you can make like a veggie dish which has got dune spinach, spring onions, and chickpeas. Then if you wanted to turn this into a hummus, you could add even more chickpeas and you could whiz it through in a food processor and add lemon juice and tahina, and then you could have a dune spinach and chickpea hummus. So that's another thing, but I think that for today's purposes we've got quite a bit to get through. Is anybody noticing that these leaves go quite bright when you fry them? And particularly in summer when the leaves are very green, very grey I should say, then when you apply heat to them, then they start switching over to quite bright green. Now what you could also do is if you've got a tub of hummus at home and you're cooking this dune spinach and spring onion, you could actually smear your hummus on your platter and just put your greens on top so that you have the greens visible and raw. But if you're trying to sneak the nutrition into your family who are a bit fussy and difficult, then you can actually just make it into a green hummus and they wouldn't even know that dune spinach is in there. Oh, this is totally looking amazing. Whoever's pan this is, if I were you, I would have put more dune spinach in. Is it you guys? Not now. So I think you're ready. I think you can actually dish yours out. And I'm going to bring you another spring onion because you guys, let's see who. Absolutely. In fact, did you put lemon juice into your one?
No, not yet.
Lemon juice and salt? And have a little taste to see if the, but can you see how it's also shrunk a little bit, the dune spinach? So you get a feel of the fact of how much dune spinach you actually need to add.
Help, we can't turn on the stove.
You can't turn on the stove. Who's going to help you on? Here you go, please. How are we going here?
I think we're doing it right.
Yes, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Have you put some lemon? You go for some lemon and you can put some salt and pepper and have a little nibble
Okay.
and see if you like it. I would have gone even more dune spinach.
We put all that we had.
Ah, well, I'll bring you some more
Okay.
for the next dish. Yeah, you guys are doing well. That's looking pretty good. Yes, and have you squeezed your lemon and have you all used up your dune spinach already?
Yes, all of it.
Okay, I'm going to bring you some of my dune spinach because you need some for your mushroom dish as well. Now, if you wanted to turn this into more of a juicy dish, then you could actually even add some coconut oil into it, coconut cream into it, so that you make it a saucy dish which you could put over rice or over noodles or something like that. So you've got coconut milk here. So if anybody wants to explore adding coconut milk, and then you could even add some chili into it so you give it a little bit of fire and bite, then that's something that you could do. So you're having a little taste there. Go for it. Yes. Then who's run out of dune spinach? You've used up all your dune spinach. So you can decant out of there and then get ready to make the next dish.
Okay. Oh, is there another one?
Yeah, mushroom dish. You've got a mushroom?
That's done.
Yes, so you can decant that into your little takeaway dish. Who else is who else used up all their dune spinach? You guys, here we go. Right, so has everybody decanted their dish yet? Are they ready to move on to the mushroom one? Right, so you have some spring onion. You guys have got spring onion. Has anybody run out of spring onion? Right, here we go.
I'm still going to use that green.
Oops. What's that? Yeah. You can do whatever you want. In case you need a bit of spring onion, there you go. Right, so let me know when you're ready for me to talk you through the next dish. Yes.
If you want, we don't have wraps.
Okay.
I got bread. Is that fine? Like
For people to have.
Yes, yeah.
Not even necessary. Not even necessary. Yeah. Right. So you've sliced your mushroom. Here's a bit more mushroom for you. Let me give you another bit more of mushroom here.
Are we supposed to use the same pan for the next dish?
You
or
can.
the other
No,
pan?
I would use the clean one.
clean
I would
one,
use the
okay.
clean one.
Oh, yeah.
Underneath.
So we can
Right.
use the smaller one.
You can use the smaller one now. And so now what I would suggest that you do is that you cut your courgettes also on the diagonal and into fairly thin slices. So there you can do like 2-3 millimeters thick so that they cook quite quickly. And then you can also slice your mushrooms, but I would leave the mushrooms in bigger pieces so that they're similar in size to each piece of courgette that you've cut. And then also to slice your spring onions. And if you quite like a little bit of heat, then you can very, very finely slice your green chili. So now what you're going to do is you're going to start, and I would now put the spring onion and the courgettes into the pan together and stir fry those together for a bit. So slice your spring onions again on the diagonal. And your courgettes on the diagonal. Get some olive oil going there and get all of that lot frying together. You should use your next clean pan. Yeah, good. Oh, and you've put some sauce in. Good one. You used all up. Okay, let's see. I'm going to steal some of your spring onion because you've got enough, I think. Here we go. Right, and you've got a bit of spring onion?
Yeah,
Yes. Cool. Okay, so how far are we? Have people started frying their spring onion and courgette? Jocelyn's doing her own thing in the corner here. Yeah, no, you're going to make a whole... Are you going to make a mixed hummus? I love it. Okay, and she's going to share it with us at the end. Yes, we're all going to get to taste it. Good one. So there's a bit of freewheeling happening at the back there. So Jocelyn is a chef who works at SOTA at Food Jams, and she's worked a lot with indigenous ingredients. I've done many workshops at their great spot. So she's totally freewheeling in the back there. She's thrown everything together, and she's going to make a mixed wild hummus. And I think she'll generously let us all taste it in the end. So have you got your spring onions and courgettes in your frying pan? Yes, good, good. And then what you can do is you can add your mushrooms in next and let them cook. You don't want to overcook them. You can do with a good bit of, you could potentially be turning your heat up a little bit here, because I'm sure you know that mushrooms can actually draw water, and you don't particularly want them to be drawing water. So give your stove a good bit of heat so that you can really sear them rather than boiling them. Yes, good smells coming out of here. Cool. Let's see how we're doing over here.
We're running.
Yeah, no, you need some more heat here. You need some more heat here. You've got to get sizzle. Have you got good sizzle going here? No, you need some more heat there too, Zuko. Yeah, looking good here. You can just about add your mushrooms, and then I'll crank your heat up a bit so that you really get a good sear going there, because you do not want boiled. You want this to be braised rather than boiled. And then when your mushrooms have been in for about 30 seconds to a minute, then you can be adding your dune spinach in. And I would say go pack your pan nice and full with dune spinach. But only once you've got a little bit of a sear on your mushrooms. And this is where you can then also, you know how nice black pepper and mushrooms are? So I would be very generous with nice, good bit of grinding of black pepper onto there. So you guys are just about, yeah, you ready for your mushrooms? Good. So there's your dune spinach. Let's see how far you are. Yeah, that should be okay. Are your mushrooms in already?
Not yet.
No, you can put your mushrooms in now already. Because, you know, we really don't need to overcook our veggies at all. You're ready for your mushrooms, definitely. Smelling so good here. I think you're ready for your dune spinach already. And remember the black pepper. The black pepper really helps to bring some good flavor. Dune spinach is fairly salty, so you don't have to salt very heavily. And if you want, lemon juice is also a flavor enhancer, so you can also be adding some lemon juice into, but don't go too heavily with it. And pack as much dune spinach into there as you have space for, because it does wilt a little bit. No, that's okay. Is that all the dune spinach you've got?
Yes.
Yeah, and keep your heat cranked high there. Do you need some more chickpeas? Because I think I can bring you some.
I think it might be okay.
Yeah, okay, all right. Good. And you need some more lemon? You need some more lemon? You're all right. Okay. Because I can bring you another one. Okay. You're losing your lid all the time. Okay, here we go. A little bit more lemon if you need.
Maybe can we do the rind?
Yes, absolutely. There's a bit of experimenting going here. A little bit of rind going in as well. And has anybody added chili to theirs? Cool. Oh. This looks done. And if you want to put coconut cream in here so that it becomes saucy, did you put coconut into that one? No, then don't put coconut into this one. Otherwise, you're taking them both the same way. Yeah, you've still got a little way to go here. I would put a teeny splash more olive oil in because you look like you're getting a little bit stuck on the bottom there. Smelling good though.
It does, hey?
Smelling so good. Oh yes, all you want is some nice noodles
Yes.
at home in your pantry. Yeah, you're looking just about ready here, I'd say. And don't forget the black pepper. Here's some more tahina if you want, Jocelyn.
Well, do we add this? Can we add that?
I wouldn't suggest you add that in there. That'll make it sort of thick. Look, take half out and try. It can only be a disaster. So, I mean, what it will do is yeah, I would go there rather. Yeah. Did you put chili into yours?
Yeah.
Because that'll give you a sort of, and you can really take it quite Asian if you want to. You could put fine slithers of ginger in and make it into sort of more of like a Thai vibe. I mean, dune spinach in a sort of Thai stir fry, it's perfect. You can take it Chinese as well. So add it into stir fry. So it's a really incredibly versatile ingredient that you can take. We've kind of gone more classic Mediterranean here today with a little bit of hint of chili. You can take it totally Eastern by adding lemongrass, ginger. Uh-oh, there's a disaster that happened here.
My bad.
That's all right. So it really is an incredibly versatile ingredient that you can take in whichever direction you want, very much like a Swiss chard or a spinach. So if you, yeah, absolutely, go for it. Absolutely go for it, yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, have fun. And then just check your salt levels, always at the end. Don't add while you're cooking because Dune spinach is quite salty. So just do your tasting at the end. And I would say you don't want to go much longer than that because it's going to start being pretty pop. You want to keep it kind of fresh and alive. We've got green hummus going on at the back here. Yes. Cool. So by now all of you should have your dishes decanted, and I would like to, I'm needing to have 2 dishes plated up for the photographer to come and take some pictures. So who is happy to volunteer? You can have your dish back afterwards, but we've got, let me just get it. You've eaten yours, okay, and
Add a bit of extra salt.
okay. That doesn't show up. Who's happy to volunteer? Yes, would you like to put that one on here so that the cameraman can take a picture and you will get yours back? I guarantee you will. And then is there someone, are you happy to put yours for photographing?
I don't know if it looks very nice.
No, that's cool. It looks interesting. That's great. Cool. And then when you're done, I'm going to bring you a platter to smear some hummus on. So here's one of them for photographing. Who's taking the photograph? Okay, cool. So we've got to do a bit of clean up there.
Hit me with garnish.
Oh, okay, perfect. And then we're just going to wipe a little bit around the edges there. Here, do you want to clean up your plate a bit around the edges there where it's spilt a bit? Jocelyn, there you go. There's a platter for you. Right. So I can see nobody's going to be taking any home today. It's all being eaten up right here. I want to, is this thing on? Okay, because I want to go around here and get a little bit of feedback from people as to how they have felt about this. Please tell us what you think of Dune spinach. No, I think you have to flick a switch.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't actually cooked with dune spinach before, and I think it's very interesting. It's very versatile leaf, very versatile plant that you can use, but definitely will start cooking with it more.
Cool. So if you want to buy some today to take home and do more experimenting with, Harvest of Hope have a stand here, and Demeter also have a stand here. Both of them are selling dune spinach. So you could take some home with you. Cool. What was your impression of cooking with dune spinach today?
It was delicious, and I was
Good.
very surprised at that because when I tasted it raw, I have
Yes.
to say it was a little bit bitter.
Yes.
But it completely transforms when it's cooked.
Yeah.
And really,
Yeah.
really good.
Cool. Cool. So you'll buy it and cook with it, will you? Glad to hear that. Yes, we've got some comments here.
We actually have no comments. I was just waving at camera.
Oh, I see. Okay, can we have a comment here?
It's absolutely delicious, and I'll definitely use it more.
Good.
And I love your projects.
Thank you.
I'm very excited about your
Good.
projects.
I'm glad to hear that. Cool. Right. So, who's got something to say about dune spinach?
Come on, guys, talk about dune spinach.
How many times have you cooked with dune spinach before now?
I don't know.
A lot. More than most. Yeah.
Demos at the Rennesig market.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, she's even demonstrated at the Oranje market before. What comments have we got here? These two are still freewheeling here.
Making a soup.
They're making a soup. Okay, and are you going to make your puree your soup?
Yeah, we add a bit of the chickpea mix.
You're going to add a bit of chickpea mix into it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so there's
yeah.
a good bit of freewheeling going on here. Bjorn, how much time have we got left? How much freewheeling?
What, 5 minutes?
We've got about 5 minutes left here. So we've got that little one here, this little one here, and we're going to get that. Cool. So I just want to thank you all for having come here and been prepared to experiment with an ingredient that you probably didn't know about. And I encourage you to get to know our Western Cape foods, and when you find them available to buy them, because I think that if we can start growing our own indigenous foods in our landscapes where they belong, where they are resilient and where they don't even need soil enrichment, because actually my farm in Khayelitsha had pure sand, and you saw how amazingly the dune spinach grew. So really, I would encourage you, whenever you find indigenous ingredients, buy them, because it's good for the planet and it's good for your guts. Oh my eye, where is here? How
The
can I
photographer is
actually-
on his way. I've
The
just
photographer is
called.
on his way. This is Jocelyn's
Oh, wow.
dune spinach hummus.
That's incredible. That makes me
Wow.
want to put a piece of bread in there and like,
Exactly.
Yum.
In fact, we were offered bread, but I think we're just going to have to get.
We have
I'm sure you
bread.
all have. Have we got? Yes, but
Yeah.
it's going to have to be found now.
no, the
Otherwise-
bread's behind you.
Oh, it's oh.
I do things behind the scenes,
excuse
Libby.
me. So we are going to slice bread,
Okay.
and when the photographer has finished photographing, then I'm going to encourage you all to come here
And do a little taste test.
and smear your bread through this hummus.
All
Abida,
right.
have you taken a picture of this? Okay, excellent.
Guys, while Libby's busy cutting bread, just a reminder, it's called a cook's guide, and it's called a grower's guide, and it's available exclusive books. Exclusive books, if you for the stand, is literally just almost behind 2 stands behind Valpre, just to give you a context. And they're really good value for money. And this is the thing, it's the book that lasts forever. I don't know what the price is at the stand, because normally the stand price is less than what it's retail. So I'd rather say just double check with them, because it's really worth enjoying. Okay, saving our planet one meal at a time, right? That's the real thing about being plant-based. You know, reducing our carbon footprint and enjoying a good meal. All right, we'll cut the bread and then just waiting for the photographer to arrive. He might be stuck, and I think he is, in that food demo. So I've just called his wife, you know, because behind every one good man is a wife who makes it happen. So, so I'm just waiting for him to arrive, and then he'll come and take some pictures.
And just once more reminding you that the place to go and buy some dune spinach today is either at the Demeter stand or at the Harvest of Hope stand, and both of them are kind of diagonally across the hall here.
I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes.
Can you grow from seed?
You indeed can, yes. Yes, and you can also grow from cuttings. So yes, it's an incredibly easy plant to grow, and you saw how much space it takes up. So if you want to grow it, just put it somewhere, either where you can get it to go up vertically. They don't like pots because you saw how big that root system is. The roots don't like to be confined. You could do a sort of bigger planter that you could handle so that you can contain how much space it takes. But also, if you harvest it often, then it's never going to get to be that big. Where I planted in Kailicha, I just let it run.
I've got a tiny piece of land, but
Yes.
it could grow underneath. Like it's
Yes.
like a section of Woodstock garden that big.
Yeah.
It can grow up.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, and just give it a fine enough mesh for it to want to hook its way through. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Libby.
The analysis hasn't been done yet. So I'm working with researchers to fill those sorts of gaps.
Guys,
It's
just
definitely
because of the sake of
nutritious.
time,
Just-
I've taken some
but
pictures.
We don't know the.
You know, when you got to be on the money, you got to be on the money because the next chef is waiting and ready to come in. So please come and grab a piece of bread. It's not gluten-free, just for anyone who's got celiac like myself. But please enjoy a slice of ciabatta and then obviously enjoy the hummus. All right.
Well, there's a spoon. You can kind of just plonk some on top and give it a taste.
If anyone does want to use this spoon, you were given one in your pack. You can just take a spoon and go from there.
We're very excited about
Yes. Oh my! And there's a soup. Abida, where are you? You've got to come and photograph the soup as well.
Oh, that looks
my
yum.
goodness!
Sorry, Matt. We couldn't wait anymore. I called and called.
This is.
Here we go. The
here's
official photographer's here. Let him
The
just-
official photographer's here. Excellent.
Sorry, Vaven. Here we go.
Let me actually just do that to it.
Time-wise, running out. One second. You want to put the bread together? Right, here we go.
Double up so that you can have it all.
Oops, that was a bit loud. So guys, come forward and have a little bit of a taste here.
Can you just let him
And I'm definitely going to I want a spoon to taste that soup. See if I can find a spoon somewhere here. Yes, excellent. And there's another
Libby?
one. Yes.
I've got spoons for you. Just ask.
Okay, brilliant. Oh, you see. Excellent. Okay, so anybody wanting to taste the soup?
Wow.
I'm going to try.
If you want to taste the soup, bring the spoon that you've got. Everyone got a spoon at your table. You can just come through and you can have a taste.
Is so good.
I'm blown away.
The soup.
I'm blown away.
Unbelievable.
This
And
is
that
going to be my
hummus.
new winter favorite. I'm telling you now. I'm going to make it and I'm going to tag you. I'll be like, Libby, I made the soup.
You must tell us where to go to harvest.
You must go and buy rather. Cultivation is my
So, what animals eat this in the wild?
donkeys. We fed it. We've got pigs at the Sustainability Institute who are helping to get rid of the kikuyu. And when we rolled up that batch on the one photograph, we took it to the pigs. They loved it. They absolutely loved it.
And also in the wild, it must probably be deer and tortoises.
I'd say so, yes. I mean, I haven't actually witnessed it, but definitely the pigs loved it. The donkeys that I fed it to have loved it. So it's an interesting idea to, to use it as a what do you call it? Food that feed for an animal. Here we go, some more bread.
Imagine they make gourmet pig food.
Did you have a taste of this? Flippin' good. Flippin' nice. Yeah. Very, very good. Right, so I think we probably have to wind up now. Everybody's reluctant to leave, which is a good sign.
Yes, I know.
Very good sign.
Guys, thank you very much. Please give yourselves a clap. And thank you, Libby. Well done.
Cheers to all of you. Come and taste more.